Thanks for this opportunity to talk about Robert Billings more than 3 decades after he went for his final swim. I met Robert in Toronto, where he was an editor, organizer, and poet, and lovely presence, a very generous person. And we were both on the executive of the League of Canadian Poets. Not close friends, but simpatico. He had visited us on our farm and loved it here, by the way, in BC, which became significant later on. And because I'm a mother, I chided him constantly for his addictions to coffee and cigarettes. What I didn't know about was his struggle with depression, except that, of course, all poets are writing their way out of depression, either personal or in their relationship with the world, which is extremely depressing. In any case, we were friends, and he invited me for lunch one day. And in hindsight, I don't know why he asked me to meet him for his final lunch, because he disappeared right afterward. We went to the Peter Pan Cafe on Queen Street and sat there for hours while I ate and talked, and Robert listened and ordered endless cups of coffee. I've never seen anyone drink as much coffee, and he's not even Italian. We talked and about poetry, about people, about our worldviews, which were similar, and especially about our children and how important they were to us and how important the family was to us. And Robert had just withstood a breakup and was recovering from that, and very concerned about his little boy, who was also manifesting signs of trouble at school. And it sounded to me as if he had learning difficulties. And I've been there, and I know it isn't the child who's being difficult, but it's a system that doesn't accommodate different kinds of learning. So I told him that, and I told him how important it was to encourage his son's gifts and to love him and listen to him and be there, always be there, be his best friend, whether he wants you or not, always be there. And he assured me he would. And I took that assurance as a promise. And later on, I have to admit, a little annoyed with him that he broke that promise. But depression and addiction are bigger than resolve, as often as not. And he was, I think, addicted to the idea of erasing himself. And every time he peeled off a poem, that was another layer of skin gone, and he was just going to finish it. He told me he was going home to Niagara. I didn't understand what that meant in the fullness of time. I found out, as we all did, when his body was discovered in spring. This was November, and at that time there was a reading at Harbourfront that everyone in Toronto was dying to go to. The tickets were sold out. It was Robertson Davies and John Irving, and it was a fabulous reading. I didn't have tickets, and coming from out of town, and he did. And he gave me his tickets, and he said, "I want you to have them." And I said, no, this is the event of the year. You go. Tell me about it afterward. No, he said, "I'm going home. You take them." Well, at that time, I didn't know what I know now, that often someone who has intentions of dying will give you something precious to them before they die. And that's what he did. He gave me a precious gift. And I thought it was just plain generosity. And of course, it was generosity. It was friendship and real sharing. He left, and he disappeared. And after he disappeared, people phoned me at home back here in British Columbia and assumed that Robert had come with me, that he was staying with my family on our farm and just in recovery, and that I should fess up and tell them. I couldn't do that because he wasn't here. And I wouldn't have lied to them if he had been. I would have told them to mind their own business or leave him be or whatever. But he wasn't here. He was at the bottom of the falls. a spirit returning to the waters. 3 years earlier, he'd written a poem called Epiphanies for the First Cold Day. This is my persistent nightmare. I jump into a shallow river. My feet sink in mud to mid-calf. The top of my head just breaks the surface. Of course, still breathing. That wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to dissolve. Taking my lumps, he said. It seemed easy, stirring sugar in his coffee, the elixir, brain, and waiting for the rush. His mind had its reasons for troubling the water, sorting poem from prayer, before he had time to discover everything, word, sugar, even the first bones disappear as the river returns to itself, or not, becoming home for the homeless, clear as mistakes, as mud. It's November, he realized, too soon for the ice to preserve me. And it did not.